We're a good ways into the book. For those of you joining me very late in the readings of Echoes of Home, this is book 1, titled Looking for Work. It is the story of a man who enters the game world, meets a native, has various adventures, marries her, and finds a way to enter another world and asks her to come with him to have all new adventures. And so the two of them find themselves in Oklahoma. Not what he expected. This is the story of an overpowered couple in an underpowered world trying to live a normal life. The story has 121 entries, and I have read aloud up to 110. We're resuming with 111. This is going to be the second to last bit of reading aloud I'll be doing in book 1. And then after that, presumably, I'll be doing book 2. Presumably. It could happen. I mean, I am in fact working on it now. So let me just pop this up here. And that's Echoes of Home Book 1, available on Wattpad, also, for what it's worth, on Royal Road, Tumblr, and God help us, AO3. When last we saw our happy couple, they were a little less happy because Tsu'na, the wife, had been doing underground cage matches, but had been told to lose. So her husband Steve got the bright idea, since they're equal in strength, of showing up as her opponent that she was presumably supposed to lose to, so that she doesn't have to try too hard to make it look good. She beat the crap out of him. This is the fallout from that. Entry 111 by Steve. Choices. Tuna went out for breakfast without me today. I let her be. Her way seems to be to go let her thoughts settle before coming up to conclusions. I can understand that. I did my share storm out for a drive back in the day. I looked for her on the map from time to time. She started out at the diner, then moved to the library, then went into Tulsa, then finally ended up at the sheep ranch southwest of there. Maybe she finds sheep tranquil? I'll show her some stupid sheep videos. I had reasons for how I handled the match. I was ready to tell her about them when she was prepared to listen, which likely was going to be after she was prepared to talk, which didn't happen for the bulk of the day. So I spent the time working on the ultralight propeller. There aren't any propeller recipes in Eorzea. Pinwheel and windmill recipes, yes, but they're meant to be pushed by the air, not push the air. One of the airships we can build in the Free Company workshop does use screws instead of a gas bag, but I don't have a recipe for them. Those were made by the workshop thing, which acts like something between a mill and a 3D printer. Put material in one end, get products out the other. Remarkably hard to write a recipe for something wooden that's flat just so, yet curved just so, with ends rounded just so, and a hole in the middle shaped just so, especially when the just so's are being estimated. But I got something made, so I dragged the desk I made as a test engine mount out into the yard, bolted the engine to it, hooked up the fuel line, secured the propeller to the drive shaft as best I could, and tried to get it to spin. And after a couple more iterations of the drive shaft mount, it finally did. I collected the pieces of the propeller, looked at where they had broken, and rewrote the recipe to make those parts thicker. 2 more broken propellers later, I packed everything away again and went back to the drawing board. The maple itself wasn't the problem, apparently. The problem was that I was trying to use maple by itself. Commercial wood propellers are made of laminate, layers of wood bonded together for more strength and flexibility. Of course, commercial propellers are also made of carbon and fiberglass, but that's a whole nother level of research. Tsu'na was at the sheep ranch at that point. I was maybe feeling edgy, waiting for her to come home and talk with me, or even come home and not talk with me. So I decided the propeller wasn't going to happen today, contacted original me about a Steam account, and looked for some random crap to distract myself with, which turned out to be Slay the Spire. After I'd spent rather a lot of time deck building, Tsu'na came into the workshop. She pulled a stool up to the workbench, sitting across from me. She set her laptop on the workbench, but didn't open it. She didn't say anything. I eventually asked, "How was Tulsa?" "Not productive. I could not make myself play the game." "And the sheep?" "Their wagging tails are very cute." We sat that way for a moment, her looking at her unopened laptop, me looking at my paused game. Then she said, "You hurt me." "You hurt me back." "You deserved it." "I acknowledge that. Are you mad that I hurt you?" She sighed. "We have been hurt worse." "Yeah, like that time at Orbon Monastery when husband." I stopped. This was her time to talk. "How many more times will this happen?" "Please be more specific." "Surprising me, trying to be clever, not telling me your plan." "Well, I thought it was a good idea this time. There may be a time in the future when I think that again, so more than 0. "And why did you think it was a good idea this time?" "I thought if you looked surprised, the audience would think I was unusual. As opposed to suddenly losing to someone who just isn't any better than anyone else, you'd be losing to someone totally different. So if you lost, it wouldn't look staged." "Why was that so important?" "Because they might have thought less of you if they thought you threw the fight. I mean, I heard how they were cheering for you. That wasn't just people who won a bet, that was people who admired you. They might not if they thought you were just another fighter on the take." "And why could you not have told me this? Could we not have planned it?" "Possibly. But that would have involved you pretending to be surprised. Last night you were honestly surprised. Less work, more authentic looking." "You are saying I cannot do your theater?" "I could maybe have weasel worded something sounded assuring and complimentary. All things considered, I think that would have been a bad precedent to set in our relationship. We need to talk." "I haven't seen you do it enough to rely on it, no." "You do not trust me. You cannot count on me. That is what you are saying?" Talking was going so swimmingly. "It's more than I count on myself. If I know I can do a thing, it's easier for me to think of doing it myself rather than having someone do it for me. And Maybe not doing it as well. Failure to delegate. But that is you making the choice. Delegating is done by someone in charge, is it not? You make a lot of choices for the two of us. Do you think you are in charge of us? In charge of me? A sergeant in motion outranks a lieutenant who doesn't know what's going on. What? Sorry, it's a quote from a book. The 70 Maxims of Maximally Effective Mercenaries. It means whoever understands a situation and responds accordingly to it has more authority in that situation, regardless of rank. Then you were claiming you know everything about everything, and that I know nothing about everything. It was a bit of an exaggeration, but I realized not by much. I'd gotten so used to taking the lead when stuff was new for her that I hadn't made the shift when it wasn't anymore. I do that a lot, don't I? Yes. And if you truly believe what you said, then every time you do it, you are saying, I cannot. I don't mean to say that. I just mean that I can. If there is something I need to learn, you not letting me do it will not teach me. There may be a lot you need to learn. I don't always think of it before it's an issue, and when that happens, there isn't always time to make it a teachable moment. Then perhaps you are doing it wrong. Perhaps you should not let things happen that way. I don't always have a choice. You have one. Do not make decisions for me. There might be times when do not make decisions for me. Ask me, inform me, involve me, work with me. What if find a way? I wanted to discuss, maybe negotiate, possibly even quibble. But I knew that at that moment there was only one correct answer. Yes, my love. You will make me breakfast tomorrow. Of course. You will make a lot of breakfast. Whatever you want. She finally opened her laptop and looked down. I contemplated the game and decided I wasn't that interested in it. I switched to stupid sheep videos. After a period of nothing but mouse clicking, she said, I like number 43. Number 43? Of your 70 Maxims book. Oh, which one's that? If it is stupid and it works, it is still stupid and you were lucky. Oh, yeah, that's a good one. My favorite is everything is drop deployable at least once. Her lips quirked. After a moment, she quietly said, I saw your note. I didn't respond. I had stopped at the house before going to Sperry. I saw the note on the pillow. I love you, Tsu'na. I thought you were trying to be romantic or perhaps encouraging, but in stories I have read, that sort of thing is called a suicide note, is it not? There's a superclass that includes notes you leave before doing something really dangerous, for times for something you once said in case you never get the chance to. You thought you might die? I was pretty sure I wouldn't. Wasn't as sure about us. So you knew it was a stupid thing, yet you did it anyway. I sighed. Myra only cares about money. She doesn't care about what people think of you or what you think of yourself. I knew you did. I did. Yes. She contemplated the laptop for a moment before asking, what made you think of doing it? Was there some story or something that inspired you? The Owl and the Pussycat. Old movie. George Siegel and Barbra Streisand. 1970. There's a scene where the man does something that makes a woman laugh so hard she gets hiccups. What are hiccups? Convulsions caused by air in the food pipe. There's a folk remedy for them. Scaring the person with them is supposed to get rid of them. So the guy goes and puts on a skeleton suit, A sexy skeleton suit? Not on a young George Siegel. He puts it on, sneaks up behind the woman, and scares her. Did it work? Well, she panics and nearly kills him, but I think it stopped the hiccups, yeah. Tsu'na closed her eyes. She pursed her lips. She rested her face in her hand. May the gods smite you for making me laugh. We smite gods, remember? Yes, we do. So, next time we're fighting, do you want me to wear the skeleton suit in the ring? From the way her head lowered to the table and her shoulders started to heave, I think I might just get smoked. Entry number 112 by Tsu'na, deleterious. Husband made me breakfast yesterday as I had asked, or perhaps demanded. I asked for an omelet and he made me one. I asked for pancakes and he made them too. I thought about asking for more fruit than I could eat, simply to make him do it. I could have stored the rest in inventory for later. But I decided the willingness to do it was enough. I even shared the food he made with him. As we ate, we talked about the sort of fighting he had done. I have thought much of what he did in the fight was simply silly. He agreed but explained why. Part of it was that other than his monk skills, he did not actually know much about hand-to-hand fighting, and was doing whatever he could think of, however silly it might have been. Another part was that monk skills do not have a large number of different moves. Had we been fighting against an enemy, it would perhaps have looked like we were doing the same things. So had we been using our monk skills to fight against each other as hard as we could, it might look to some people that we were doing the same things to each other. So a real fight between us might look to others as a fake fight between actors. Husband's silly fighting, then, had been an attempt to look the same. Sorry. Husband's silly fighting, then, had been an attempt to not look the same as whatever I might do. It was only silly because he did not know real ways to fight. We spent the rest of the morning looking at videos of different types of fighting, things husband had talked about before. Boxing looked like pugilism. Wushu looked like a mix of dodging, grabbing, and throwing. Karate was like boxing, except not only using the knuckles. Krav Maga looked like everything and nothing. We may need to learn other things and somehow combine them with our monk skills. And if we are ever to fight each other again or others' entertainment, we may need to learn how to coordinate and not do the same things. We will need time and teachers and places to learn and practice. And we may need to not do the learning together, so that people will not know we are planning our fights. Husband talked about something called the prestige. While husband worked on making the airplane propeller, I spent part of the afternoon gathering maple logs as our supply was low. I wish husband had told me that we would need more than usual, but I suppose he did not yet know. Still, it was not how I had planned to spend this morning. We had come to the bar after dinner and had not yet found stools when Sam gave us some news. Deputy Frank came by. Seems he's going to be inspecting the workshop on a regular basis. Husband peered at Sam. He can get warrants on a regular basis? He claims he don't need them. That the shed's just part of the bar. What happened to all that landlord-tenant stuff we talked about? He says that only counts if there's a lease, which, for whatever issues you got, you and I don't have. Okay, but that means it's your shed, right? So you can require a warrant? Sam sighed. Establishments that serve alcohol are subject to the inspection on a regular basis to ensure that there are no activities being conducted that are threatening or deleterious to the community. Husband simply stared at him. He can inspect the bar. Shed's part of the bar. Sam shrugged. He can inspect the shed. So you can just walk in at any time? I can't even put a sock on the doorknob or something? I did not know what this meant. Sam apparently did. He smirked. This establishment does not provide facilities for adult entertainment. I mean, can I at least lock the door and make him knock? Suppose so. Though I don't know if he watches bad cop shows. He might try to kick the door down if he hears sounds of distress. Deputy Frank has seemed to make a hobby of watching us, sometimes as we work at the diner, and only rarely as we work at the bar. Sam thinks it is because we are new to town, and there is very little else happening in the county to distract him. It may also be because sometimes strange things happen around us, and those who might have seen them have nothing to say to Frank if he asks them. Husband and I do sometimes spend casual time in the workshop, but it is not very comfortable for what I think Sam meant by adult entertainment. But we do our Eorzean crafting there, which husband has said we should not do in front of others. So we would not want Frank walking in on us unexpectedly. Husband was not happy about the news. I was not either, but he seemed to be taking it hard. He leaned against the back of a chair, his eyes not focused on anything in particular. Then he lifted the chair and slammed it into the floor, smashing it. He punched the table that was next to the chair, splitting it in two. He grabbed two chairs and crushed them together. He stomped to another table and continued his rampage as if the room's furniture was his solo duty. Sam and I watched silently from the bar. When husband at last seemed to run out of rage, he stood in the middle of the room surrounded by debris. His head and shoulders drooped. Sam quietly said, "You know, you're just making more work for yourself." "Something for Frank to walk in on," husband muttered. After a moment he made himself straighten. "Guess I'll get started on the replacements." He headed through the back to the workshop. I turned to Sam and smiled. "I will pick up the pieces. Don't forget your shift. Your husband get like this a lot?" "When we were on deployment, there was usually a good target for anger." "Remind him he ain't on deployment now?" "I will." Entry 113 by Steve. Lease. Why does it do this? There wasn't much of a reaction to my rampage among the bar patrons. People would be like, "What happened to the tables and chairs?" "Steve got mad and busted them." "Oh, okay." Busting up stuff in a bar is apparently a thing that happens. Or at least, me busting up stuff in a bar. Tsu'na very kindly cleaned up after me, both literally and socially. She seemed amused by seeing me lose my cool for a change. She should have seen me applying tigers when I stabbed the guy in the shoulder. I hadn't done so much gratuitously impactful redecorating in a long time. Never that much at once. Maybe a single chair at a time. A few individual occurrences of a fist through drywall. Only one set of knuckle prints in a fridge. And all that was long before Eorzea. It shouldn't have happened this time. But Deputy Frank just ticked me off. He seemed bound and determined to get up in my business, and that included getting into my workshop. Yeah, our workshop, but Tsu'na was taking it a lot less personally than I was, as far as I could tell. We practically rebuilt that rust bucket of a shed from the ground up. It was our project, our creation, and now Frank was telling us it's not our space. Not quite his, but as part of inspecting the bar, he says he can go into it anytime he wants. So I guess I thought some of the tables and chairs in the pit had his face on them. Even though he had his face on him too, I managed to not punch it yesterday morning. He knocked on the workshop door just as I was finishing up a table, so when I opened the door, I rolled it out right at him, making him dodge. I stopped, and we regarded each other. Mr. Gearcat, Deputy, I'm here to inspect the shed. Understood. We stood there for a moment longer before he asked, would you mind getting that out of the way? I considered saying, oh no, this is where I'm installing it, sorry. But the resulting conversation might have made me reconsider my restraint, so I kept on rolling. Close the door when you're done, please. Sam watched me roll the first replacement table through the door. I could maybe have made replacements for all of the furniture the night before. I had the energy certainly, but not the wood. So Tsu'na was out getting more wood while I was calmly and collectively building new furniture at less than superhuman speed. Sam set a bottle of cider on the bar for me. I ambled over and climbed up on a stool. Thanks. You ain't a mean drunk, are you? Still some tables that ain't smashed. I'll be good. He nodded. You know, I'm just going to throw this out here. Maybe we can write up a lease. Problems with ID, I muttered. Yeah, you said that. Ever going to tell me what they are? Oh, it's simple. I'm effectively a clone of someone twice my age, so my unmarried name and my social security number and my fingerprints and my DNA and probably my retina pattern and all belong to him. Maybe my face, too. Not sure what all got changed in my cycles for Eorzea, so if anybody really checked me out, they'd find I don't exist, or at least I shouldn't. Probably not, sorry. I mean, it's just signing a piece of paper to set wave in Frank's face. How much ID does that take? Gotta file with the courthouse, don't we? Only if there's a dispute. You planning on disputing with me? I shrugged. My father was a lawyer. He used to say a contract was for when, not if, things go wrong. Anyway, doesn't my identity need to be tied to something? So when I do sue you for $20 million, they know it's me? Signature? Need something official to compare it to. Fingerprint? Let's pretend that's not an option. He studied me but didn't quibble. Photo? I thought about it. Maybe. That gives me an idea. Back in a bit. The library had a printer I could pay to use. I researched leases, did some editing, and printed out 3 copies. I took them back to the pit. Sam accepted a copy and started reading. For and in consideration of the sum of $1 and other good and valuable consideration, the undersigned party of the first part, hereinafter referred to as landlord. He went silent as he continued to read, then looked up at me. You wrote this? Bastardized something I found online. Okay. So what you doing about ID? Look at the last page. I'd taken a selfie on my phone, transferred it to G Photos, and included it on the signature page of the lease as part of the page background. The signature lines went over the picture, so signing the lease meant signing the picture, which I think means acknowledging the picture as identity for the lease. I think. I am not a lawyer. Huh. What about your wife? What about her? You don't mention her in this. She's my wife. Community property? Not in this state. Besides, you got a marriage license to go with that ID you don't have? If I do, it's in Eorzean. Possibly even in Eorzea. Common law marriage? Tell that to Frank. I mumbled and grumbled and headed back to the library. Tsu'na was out in the woods, so I link-pearled her and asked her to send me a selfie. It came out nice and pastoral with the trees in the background. When I got the new lease printed, she met Sam and me at May's grocery store because apparently May was a town notary. More hats than people in this town, she said. We all signed 3 copies, one to file, one to keep, and one to lose, as Dad used to say, and I handed Sam $1. So does this mean I can throw Frank out now? Better not let him in. Roger that. The funny thing about the deleterious entry, I actually researched that. It isn't quite worded that way, but there is something in the Oklahoma state law that allows uh, state commissioners and representatives thereof, in this case the police, to inspect bars pretty much whenever. This is because in Oklahoma, it's an anti-moonshining law. Bars are not allowed to produce the alcohol they sell and are therefore not allowed to have any paraphernalia for producing alcohol on the premises. So in Virginia, at least, there are these what they call brewery restaurants or brewery pubs where they actually make beer on the premises and serve it to people. Not in Oklahoma, that I know of. Maybe there's some special exception, I don't know. I got as far as Frank can go into the shed anytime he wants to by law. Entry 114 by Tsu'na, Wind Chimes. I am trying to find things to do. There are many things I can do. I have a lot of books I can read. Husband has collected videos I can watch. There are shards and materials to gather and things to build. I can go into Tulsa and play the game or simply explore. There are truly things to do. But the thing I keep thinking about is the thing I cannot do. I am not fighting in Myra's fights. I am not Cat's Meow. It is a piece of identity that I had made for myself and now it is gone. Husband would perhaps say I am still me, and I must agree that that is true. But when I find myself wondering if I am even real, it is nice to have more pieces of me. I should perhaps ask husband to ask Scott about other fights, since Scott seems to know about betting. But that is only part of the question. I typed this at the workshop. I have been here all day. I came here in the morning thinking perhaps to work on something in husband's our project list. Instead, I opened a blank doc to type my thoughts. When I did not have any, I played a wind chime video and listened while I stared at the dock some more. Husband has almost finished his our airplane. The propeller keeps breaking or trying to. I think he uses working on furniture for the bar as his zen, since he will make a table or some chairs between trying to make another propeller. He certainly needs the zen after each propeller breaks. Other than the airplane, the largest project on our list is a greenhouse. It will be a lot of work, perhaps more than the workshop, since the frame from the old shed was still available, even though I do not think there is any of it left. The greenhouse will require cedar and plexiglass and something for a floor and perhaps concrete or cement. And we may also want lights and water pipes. It will require thought and planning. Husband insisted on adding gardening as a separate project after the greenhouse. I do not understand why, unless he is concerned about crossbreeding. Plants want daily watering, but do not need specific tending before they finish growing in 3 or 4 days, so they should not affect our other tasks. Listening to the wind chime sound made me curious about it. I I googled wind chimes and saw pictures of ones that were for sale. They looked simple enough to make. There are things that make noise when hit, tubes or rods. Things that do the hitting, clapper. Things that are pushed by the wind to move the clapper, feather. String, and something for everything to hang from, top piece. We have a lot of copper and hemp and yarn. The leather does not look like actual sorry. The feather does not look like an actual feather. Some seem to be made of wood, while others are a piece of leather. The top piece could be metal or wood. It seems most people use stone for a clapper. We have not been keeping a lot of stone, but there is granite nearby. I could have written a recipe for wind chimes that used copper tubes and hempen yarn and granite and maple. But that would have been a recipe for one kind of wind chime, and there were a lot of pictures of different kinds in Google. Husband had talked about template recipes that would allow us to change one thing, as some of the recipes we learned let us do. But I thought that would not be enough. Chloe Aliapo ran an orphanage in Idleshire and wanted us to make things for her that she could use to raise money to take care of children. But she did not have specific recipes for specific things. She had recipes that used materials to make components that would then make things. The materials would sometimes change. She often wanted keepsakes of Western coerthas. The materials for these were once dragon scale and mithrite, and another time were dark chestnut wood and yeti fur. When I had different materials, I made different keepsakes, yet the recipe did not change. I studied Chloe's recipe in the workshop, looking to see how and where it specified things to use and what to make. Both husband and Eorzean scholars spoke of intent when working with ether, and I saw how to blend my own intent into the recipe, to take what materials I had to make what I wanted made. And so, I wrote a recipe that took metal ore and stone and wood and yarn and made metal tubes and a metal ring and a stone disc and lengths of string and a flat wooden plate. Then a further recipe that took these pieces and made a wind chime with tubes of different lengths and string of the right lengths and a clapper and feather, all connected to a metal top piece. And it made sound when I touched the feather. Hanging it in the workshop would not do, since there was no wind inside. So I made a signpost without a sign, placed it outside, and hung the wind chime from that. The sound was different from the video I had listened to and not as pleasant, so I took it down, desynthesized it, and tried again. I made 4 more attempts before husband got back from gathering. After making a chime, I tested the clapper against each of the tubes to consider the sound. I could make thinner walled tubes and wider or narrower tubes to change the range of sound and how long the sound lasted after they were hit. Husband returned as I was making one more set of components. He studied my recipes, copied them to his own journal, and started his own attempt as I hung on my last chime. He was very happy with the idea and wants to try making food recipes the same way. I am willing to try a meat pie made that way, but I think I am content buying Giuseppe's pizza. Husband called me brilliant as he has before. I do not know if I am brilliant or if either of us are, but I am someone who can think of things like this. I am an artisan. I make things. This is not news to me. It does not tell me anything about who or what I am that I did not already know. It does not truly tell me my identity, but it's a piece of it. And now we have wind chimes. Excuse me. Cough drop break. And water break between the cough drops. Damn it. How can I mess up opening a cough drop? Fussy. Last entry of the evening. Entry 115 by Steve. Star. I think today has been a good day. Actually looking forward to tomorrow. After shattering 4 solid maple bridge propellers, I decided to try something new. Looking at listings for propellers online, I see a lot of the wooden ones use laminate, which means layers of wood glued together. Plywood is laminate, so is butcher's block. I decided to try doing something halfway in between. I have a recipe for plywood I'd used to make a panel for the window of flying tigers that was shot out in the drive-by. Combining that with the recipe I'd managed for a propeller produced something that was a marked improvement on solid maple. I can tell it had strength from the layering, and I hoped it would have flexibility too if needed. I took it out of the workshop to the patiently waiting engine mounted on the desk. I got it onto the drive shaft and bolted it in place. I once more started up the engine to see if the propeller would spin. It didn't want to spin. It wanted to writhe. I mean, sure, the drive shaft rotated with it, but it bucked. It wanted to shake the engine, but the engine was bolted to the desk and didn't go anywhere. I killed the gas before something got shaken apart. At least it still had a propeller for all the good it did me. I took it back to the workshop to review what I'd done wrong that time. Tsu'na was sitting at the workbench typing away at her laptop. I am trying to find a word, husband. Is there a word for an idea that changes one's way of thinking? Uh, Brainstorm? Revelation? Epiphany? Spell that last one, please. I spelled. She typed. She read. Epiphany, yes. Thank you. I think I have an epiphany. What would that be? You spent more than $3,000 for the ultralight engine. Google says ultralight propellers are $60. That's not the point. My epiphany is that it should be. But I'm trying to learn how to make one of these. You bought a bicycle to learn how to make a bicycle. Can you not buy a propeller? I looked at the propeller in my hands and sighed. We'll need to sell 15 pies to cover it. We know how to make pies. I set the propeller on the workbench and came around to wrap an arm around her shoulders. Clarity of vision, my love. Thanks. So show me what you found. Turns out propellers are cheap. Stupid cheap considering how much of the rest of the ultralight materials would have cost if we bought them. We had to weed through a lot of choices that included props for radio-controlled model planes. Apparently propellers are a consumable for them. Some are listed as coming pre-balanced. Could be the problem that whole time was that I hadn't tried to balance the ones I made. No idea how to work balancing into the recipe, but there's a garage on the edge of town. Maybe props can be balanced the same way as tires. But the important thing was that a reasonably priced propeller, according to Amazon, could be in my hands as soon as tomorrow. I could be operating an aircraft any day now. Even after all the crafting I've done here in Eorzea, it still makes me a little giddy when something like this comes together. There was a knock at the workshop door. I got up to answer it, wondering what Sam might want that he couldn't just call me for. It wasn't Sam. I got the door open a couple inches to find Deputy Frank standing there with something resembling a polite smile. Good afternoon, sir. Mind if I... He pushed on the door and stepped forward. I allowed it to open wide enough to step forward myself. He bounced off of me and was obliged to back up a couple steps. I pulled the door shut behind me. I produced my own politeness adjacent smile. Something I can do for you, Deputy? Just a friendly visit. I wasn't aware we were friends. He held on to his excuse for a smile. There's just some small matters I'd like to clear up. Perhaps we can step inside and discuss it. The lease meant he couldn't just barge in, and it didn't sound like he had a warrant. I don't know why he's so insistent on seeing what we do behind closed doors. I kept up my expression and held my position. I'm kind of in the middle of something. Is this an official visit? Just looking to improve community relations. Is your wife in? Perhaps we can all discuss it together. He reached past me to push on the door. I held onto the knob. We can talk out here. Is there something you don't want me to see, sir? Is there something you insist on seeing, Deputy? He looked past me at the door, still sort of smiling. Oh dear, did I hear a sound of distress coming from inside? Sam was right. Deputy Frank not only watches cop shows, he watches cheesy cop shows. I lost my smile. I was about to lose my temper when the knob turned in my hand and I heard the door open. Tsu'na said from behind me, Are you going to be long, husband? Frank's eyes shifted and got wide. I followed his gaze to see part of my magnificent Mikote visible from the doorway, her face and ears, and a tantalizingly bare arm and shoulder. And a smile. I turned back to Frank. Do you have a warrant to inspect my wife, Deputy? He wrenched his eyes back to me, then lowered them. Uh, Sorry to disturb you, sir, he mumbled, and walked stiffly away. Tsu'na opened the door for me as I came back inside. She stood there in her black summer tanga and halter, still smiling. Was I a stripper, husband? No, my loves, that was theater. You were a star. Does that mean you do not want me to be a stripper? I didn't have much in the way of words or logic at that point. Logic wasn't a major component of the rest of the afternoon, or productivity for that matter. And now I feel like I owe Frank something. That was Echoes of Home, Book 1, Entry 115 by Steve Starr. Next stream is going to be the last part of Echoes of Home, Book 1 read aloud. 5 entries, and I like to think they're special.